I almost gave up organic gardening because of one plant, and that is broccoli. I had to deal with the grossest thing that I have ever dealt with in gardening because of broccoli. I was this close to throwing in the organic gardening towel because of worms. So, because I did not throw in the towel, I'm going to show you guys how I grew the broccoli, harvested it, and dewormed it. And I'm also going to give you guys tips so that you don't have to go through what I went through. So, why so much broccoli? And for us, the question is, why not so much broccoli? We eat a ton of broccoli, especially in soups, roasted, and stir fries. You name it, we eat a lot of broccoli. And plus, there's something really interesting about growing a little mini tree of broccoli and you harvesting the head, and for me it just seems really gratifying. So I always found it to be a really interesting plant, and that's the reason why we grow so much of it. Although broccoli is really easy to grow, this wasn't just, let me toss some seedlings in and that's it. We nurtured these things, we weeded and watered and fertilized to make sure that we had a good broccoli harvest. So I wasn't going to throw my whole harvest away because of a few hundred worms. The growing process for broccoli is actually not complicated. First, broccoli loves cool weather, so plant your seeds or your seedlings in late winter or early spring, or if you want a fall harvest, you can plant it in late summer, depending on your climate. Choose a sunny spot with rich, well-drained soil. That's what I'm supposed to say, but I actually planted my broccoli in a shadier area in clay soil, and besides the worms, which is technically my fault, they turned out perfectly fine. Make sure you keep the soil moist, not soggy, and feed your plants a balanced fertilizer every few weeks so that you get nice, large broccoli heads. If you're wondering how you would know when to harvest the broccoli, you want to look for firm, tight heads, about 4 to 7 inches across. And if you start to see the flowers open, you need to harvest it right away because you don't want to miss the best flavor and texture, and you definitely don't want to invite the worms in. So harvest it before you start to see flowers open, when you have a nice, firm, tight head like this one. And when you're harvesting it, use a sharp knife to cut it off because, as you can see here, broccoli a lot of the time produces these side shoots, and these side shoots produce little mini broccoli heads. So if you have more time in the season, go ahead and cut off that main stalk and leave the side shoots. But I'm probably going to take all of this broccoli out because I want to replant it with something else. When I first harvested the broccoli, I was so excited because this was the biggest broccoli harvest we've had. I've only grown like the purple sprouting broccoli, or maybe just one, but with a small head. So I was extremely excited. That is until I saw the worms wiggling around in the broccoli stalks. And let me tell you, I really thought that I was going to need a Benadryl, because I thought I was going to break out in the hives looking at those worms squirm around in the broccoli. And I almost threw the broccoli out, but I just thought about my ancestors and my grandmother, who, I'm like, she eats chicken bones. If I can't deal with a few worms, then how shameful would that be? So I put my big girl panties on and I took matters into my own hand so that we can get rid of the worms. So before we get into how to get rid of them, let's learn a little bit about who these perpetrators are. In general, they're all grouped together and called cabbage worms, and they love to eat brassica plants. Brassica plants include cabbages, kale, cauliflower, collards, and of course, broccoli. Our first culprit is the most common, and it's called the imported cabbage worm, which looks a little like a small green caterpillar. There's also the cabbage looper. These are light green caterpillars with white stripes going down their sides. They are called loopers because they move in a looping motion. Trust me, I know from experience. Finally, we have the diamondback moth larva. These are smaller, slender green larvae that wiggle vigorously when disturbed. The bad news is that they're all very hard to see. The good news is that they do have a kryptonite, which we'll get into in just a second. The worms had already moved in, so I had to do something. Here's how I got rid of the worms and how you can too. Step 1, cut the heads into florets. Obviously, I wasn't daintily cutting the florets because I wanted to be gentle. I just didn't want to touch a worm. So, cut the florets into a size that you prefer. We prefer roughly medium size, big enough for roasting, but not too big for stir frying or sauteing. If you notice black dots on your broccoli, like this one here, I'd suggest not adding it to the big bowl because it's probably got a lot of worms in it. So, give it to your chickens, put it in a compost, or just toss it. Step 2, soak them in salty water. Now, you should be soaking them in 1 teaspoon of salt per quart, but I multiplied that by like 10 because I wasn't taking any chances. In fact, I made a very salty solution by dissolving around a half a cup of salt in a small pot, and I poured that directly over the broccoli just to get those worms activated, and then I poured cooled water over top. Step 3, soak for hours. Well, Professor Google says 30 minutes, but I did more like 2 hours because, again, I wanted to be sure. It's best to put the bowl in the fridge, but my bowl is way too big for the fridge, so I just sat it in the sink. Step 4, trigger warning. Watch in horror as the worms start to crawl out. And I mean, they come out almost immediately and they come out in hordes. And I promise, I'm not trying to scare you away from growing broccoli or organic gardening because both of them are worthwhile. But I want to share my real life experience so you guys know exactly what regular people are going through out there. Step 5, agitate the water to knock the worms loose. In fact, you may even have to play Titanic with some of those persistent ones and drown them by pushing the broccoli under the water and holding it there until they die. And I know that's horrible technically, but life is made of choices, and this is the choice I made. Step 6 is to set up a full inspection station by the sink and check every single floret. I let the faucet run into the bowl to keep the water flowing. Then using the faucet, I would clean each broccoli floret and remove any of the worms. And no, it did not get easier as time passed. During this time, I thought about how I got here, why I didn't do what I was supposed to do, thinking that I have to do a video about this so that you guys don't follow in my footsteps. Step 7, blanch in boiling water. While I was cleaning the broccoli, I put a huge pot of water on the stove to boil, and right before adding the broccoli to the water, I salted the water, added the broccoli, and blanched the broccoli for a minute or 2. Step 8, cool, dry, and freeze. After blanching the broccoli, drain them. You can put them in an ice bath to stop cooking, but to be honest, I just drain them and lay them on the cookie sheet lined with the paper towels. I let them dry, cool, and then when they're cool, I'll remove the paper towels, freeze the broccoli on the cookie sheet, and then when they're frozen, I'll put the broccoli in a freezer bag and throw the freezer bag back into the freezer. If you're in zone 7B or warmer and you want to grow broccoli and avoid my fate with the worms, then here are the few things that you need to look for. First, if you see bug holes in the leaves, you know you have a worm problem. Secondly, if you see silk webs between the florets from those little worms, you obviously have a worm problem. Yellowing broccoli heads is obviously not a good sign, and that could be a sign of a worm infestation. And last but not least, and the most obvious, is if you see worms hiding behind the leaves, you clearly have a worm problem. Next time, I think I'm just going to grow broccoli in the fall, especially when I'm growing so much of it. That way I don't have to deal with so many pests and bugs and disease. When you're gardening organically, you're trying to stay away from any sprays or even organic sprays. You try your best. So timing is everything. It's very imperative, especially when you're harvesting something like broccoli. To keep your broccoli worm-free, you could pick the worms off by hand. That's not happening over here. I'm not getting, no. Not happening. But if you're at that level in life where you just don't care and you're just ready to pick the worms off, then that is definitely an option for you. But for me, I tried neem oil and BT, but I think I was just a little bit too late in the game for it to, really repair the damage that had already been done. So you guys try it out. Let me know how it works for you. And if you have suggestions on timing and things like that, I'd be happy to hear it. Have you ever soaked your veggies and seen something strange come out? If you have, like me, please let me know in the comments so that I know that I'm not alone. Organic broccoli is not for the faint of heart, but it's 100% worth it. From the seedlings to the harvesting, even with the worms, it is still one of the most rewarding things I've grown. And now I've got clean, homegrown broccoli in the freezer. If you've made it this far in the video, drop a broccoli emoji in the comment section. And if you like real, raw gardening experiences, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know what I'm growing next. Thanks so much for hanging in the garden with me. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.